In this video, I'm going to compare two different types of canvas that I use in my Epson P6000 printer to make gallery wraps like this one. I will be reviewing the 17M canvas from Breathing Color and then Epson's Exhibition Canvas Matte. I've been using the Exhibition Canvas Matte from Epson for several years now, and I really love it. But the thing is, the downside to it is that you have to varnish. I use this type of varnish, the high gloss Liquitex varnish, and you're supposed to let the canvas dry for a few days. Like, I think they suggest 2 days before you apply the varnish, and then after varnishing, you gotta let it dry for a couple of hours. And so this makes the production time like 3 days on these, and when you're making canvas gallery wraps, and that's no good, because like if you use the Exhibition matte canvas and you don't varnish, it will scrape off and it will crack when you're wrapping it. So you don't want to do that. You always want to varnish. But I found over the time of using it that I could shorten that time. I wouldn't have to let it dry for 2 days. I could let it dry for just 8 hours and then varnish, but still it's taking an entire day to make it because it has to dry, and then I have to, like, if I'm doing several of them, I have to have them laying flat on like pieces of cardboard, and I've got them like all around my studio, and I don't really have a drying rack. I don't have space for one, so it's kind of like it gets in the way. And so it's, you know, from my workflow production standpoint, it's not my favorite thing to be doing, making a bunch of canvas gallery wraps. But I love how the colors look on it, and it's nice and thick. It's excellent canvas. It's just that extra step of varnishing wasn't my favorite thing to do. And so that's when I started looking around, and I got this email from the company Breathing Color. If you're interested in looking at their products, I've posted a link below. I'm not an affiliate of them or anything like that. I'm not paid to do this video. But they do send out these really good deals sometimes around Black Friday, and just so happened last year they had this deal on their 17M canvas. And this is the type of canvas that comes pre-laminated, pre-varnished, and so you just print on it and then it's good to go. You don't have to varnish it, and you can stretch it and it won't crack, and it's water resistant. That's what they say. We're getting ready to test all that out here in just a second in the video, and so but I'm just kind of believing them. I called and I talked to one of their support people before I purchased, because I wanted to make sure it would work in my printer and, you know, not hurt my printer, because it's not an Epson paper, and I was, you know, a little nervous because my P6000 is really expensive and I don't want to mess it up, you know. and they're like, yes, this will absolutely work in your printer. The one thing that the support rep advised me was that if I was going to use them for art fairs like I'm doing with my other canvas gallery wraps with the Epson paper, he said that they wouldn't be as durable because they don't have varnish. He said that when I varnish the Epson canvas, it makes it so that it's really scratch resistant, and it does. I noticed, like, they can take a beating. Like, I can like bang them against something, or, you know, like slide them in and out of a box and nothing will happen to them. They can get wet and it's just fine because the varnish completely protects them. It also protects them from fading. They're already fade resistant because of the type of Epson ink that I use in my printer, but it's nice to have it doubly protected, especially when I'm like hanging them out in the sun. So I was kind of hesitant to purchase it because if it wasn't going to be scratch resistant and water resistant enough, if it might not fit my needs enough, even though, you know, the sales page on the website said that it would, you know, I didn't know what to do. But since it was a buy one get one free deal that they had sent out in their email, I was like, well, I mean, this makes this canvas like really, really cheap compared to what I'm paying for my Epson rolls. So I was like, well, okay, I'll go ahead and get like a 17-inch roll so then I can make some smaller prints. And here's one of the prints I made with it. I gallery wrapped it, and you can see it's a satin, so it has a little bit of shine but not a lot of shine. I usually use high gloss varnish on my other ones, but I like the way this looked, and the colors are really vibrant. The other thing about this roll, I'm going to open up the box here and show you. You need to use cotton gloves when you touch this canvas. You're not supposed to touch it with your fingers because the oils could get on there and then it could impact how it works in the printer. This is very similar to all of the gloss and luster papers provided by Epson. You always have to use cotton gloves. What I learned from printing with it is that I downloaded the ICC profile and installed that into my computer. And one of the prints I made, my first one, I didn't set up all of the things in the, if you're familiar with printing, there's kind of like this little dashboard that you pull up whenever you're kind of programming all the different types of paper and stuff. Well, there's a secondary one in Photoshop that you have to say was this type of like satin, and I had it pre-programmed to say it was matte canvas. So anyway, my first print, since I didn't set it up properly, was too light. the colors, the blacks just didn't turn out dark enough, because as it turned out, it printed with the matte ink and it needed to print with the gloss ink. And so I figured that out right away once it came out halfway, and I was like, this isn't looking right. So I went back into my Photoshop program and I programmed it all in there properly, and then it worked perfectly. It printed exactly what was on my computer screen, and the prints turned out to look awesome, as you can see back there. But what we're gonna do here in this video is see how water and scratch resistant this type of paper really is. I have this piece of canvas here. It's like half printed out. The colors were too light, so I'm going to put water on this. I'm gonna scratch it with sandpaper, all sorts of different stuff, just to see how scratch resistant it is. First, I'm gonna try to scratch this with my fingernails, because this is something that sometimes customers do when they're in my art fair booth. Use this little purple section over here. They never do that much scratching, but I'm really giving this a work over to see. And look, nothing. Isn't that awesome? Now, just so you know, this has dried for about 18 hours since I did this. So that might make a difference if it had just dried. I don't know. I was able to gallery wrap these within a half hour of it coming out of my printer, so it was awesome. Like, I probably could have done it sooner than that, but I gave it a half hour just to make sure that it was all completely dry. Okay, well, now we're gonna use some sandpaper on this. This one's like the most coarse one you can purchase. It's, or at least one of, I don't know that much about woodworking, but it's really, really coarse, and I use it to shave off wood off of these little stretcher bar parts to make them fit perfectly. So it takes off a lot of wood just in one whack. Again, I'm gonna try this little purple area. That did kind of take a little bit off. I don't know if you guys can see. There's a small line right here. See if I can get it to focus. Yeah, you can see the line right there. So it did take a little bit off. So sandpaper, you can't use it on it, but honestly, I've never tried that on my other ones. So I think, I mean, that's good. Like, if it could pass the fingernail test, I think that's good enough. But so super coarse sandpaper can take off the finish. So I've got a rag here with some water. It's pretty damp. It's not like soaking wet, but I'm rubbing it on this other area to see if I can get the, I'm really scrubbing it too. It does if you scrub, yeah, okay, if I keep scrubbing. You have to really do it a lot. I mean, when is this ever gonna happen in an art fair? But it did take off some of the finish. It was with me scrubbing with kind of this rough, and you can kind of see some of it's on there. In comparison, I don't have one in here to show you, but I could totally do that with one of the varnished ones. It wouldn't hurt it at all. So the water resistance is less. Lastly, I didn't show you this because I didn't want to haul my camera and everything and get it all set up in my kitchen, but I ran this thing underwater where the cow nose is. It's kind of still damp, so it's kind of buckling a little bit. Let me try to show you. And it did not have any of the colors smear from running water. And what I did was I patted it dry with a paper towel. I didn't rub, I just patted, and it was fine. So it does have some water resistance. And that's more of what might happen out at an art fair. For example, like it could start raining and then you might not get your booth shut down in time. That's happened to me before. Water gets on stuff, so it needs to be able to get water on it, but then you can, you know, pat it dry really gently, which is, you know, really what would happen in the real world. And so this thing, I mean, in my opinion, this type of paper passes all the tests that I would need to feel comfortable using these at art fairs. And I mean, who's going to do something like sandpaper or scrub it really hard with a cloth? Nobody's gonna do that to a piece of fine art. So even though the support rep at Breathing Color kind of cautioned me that it might not be the right thing for art fairs, I actually think it is, especially after all of my tests. And it's awesome paper. I would highly recommend it. It's more affordable than the Epson Exhibition Canvas Matte, and you don't have to varnish it. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. All right, see you next time.